I don't think any of these three running backs are particularly good, but they've landed in great situations.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks. He's Vaz, I'm Jason, and we've got another great show for you today as we go over the top 5 winners and the top 5 losers from free agency so far. We're going over the first 3 days, so without any further ado, let's take a look at the 5th biggest winner. So we're talking about the 3 newly anointed bridge quarterbacks. Mainly, we're talking about Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Sam Darnold.
Correct. So the way I look at this is you can't feel too optimistic about any of these three, but you're absolutely thrilled that they're given this opportunity. So if I own one of these guys, now is the time to sell. So if I have Jacoby Brissett, okay, I'm looking at the rosters in my league. Who is a competing roster with one QB? And I'm targeting them for a second round pick. Now, I don't think I'm going to get a second round pick this year for Jacoby Brissett, but if I get creative and try to find a second round pick in 2026, then I can get off Jacoby Brissett at perhaps his highest value. That's what I'm looking to do.
Okay, and how about Darnold and Minshew? Same
Similar
value?
things with them. Yeah, I think Darnold maybe a bit less or similar to Brissett, and Minshew probably worth a bit more. But I'm looking to get off all three of these if I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the number 4 winner on this list. It is the plodding running backs that never die. We're talking about Mixon, we're talking about Moss, and we're talking about Gus Edwards.
Right. So the 3 running backs you were worried could be dead, or even in the case of Moss or Gus, you probably expected them to die, and they've been given new life. So I don't think any of these 3 running backs are particularly good, but they've landed in great situations. So again, with these 3, I'm looking to sell if I can. If I can take Mixon and find an excited owner to give me a high second for him, I'm taking that. I think Mixon can be useful next year, but it's probably a 1-year thing in Houston, and then he'll hit free agency again, and who knows what will happen. But if I can hit if I can reset if I can reset my roster with a new young running back, maybe with a high second round pick, I'm looking to do that.
So classic example of trying to trade Mixon a year too early than a year too late.
Exactly. And then same situation with Moss and Gus, probably just expect a little bit less. Yeah. Maybe like a late second for Moss, maybe an early third for Gus, something like that.
All right, let's take a look at number 3 on our list of biggest gainers through free agency. The running backs that dodged a bullet. We're talking about Hubbard, Zamir White, both Whites, Pacheco, Cook, and Javonte Williams.
And yeah, basically, sometimes this is forgotten in free agency, but a number of running backs could have lost their jobs in free agency to better running backs, and they didn't. Like, if you're sitting with Zamir White on your roster, now there's a real potential that he walks into week 1 as a starter, right? It's not a deep draft at running back. So if you own, Pacheco, Rachaad White, Zamir White, any of these guys that you listed, you're thrilled that they dodged the first and biggest bullet. There's still the NFL draft to go, but as I said, there's not a bunch of really great running backs in the draft. So you can feel optimistic about these guys. And I think, yeah, well, especially in the case of Zamir White, Chuba Hubbard, like running backs that aren't worth so much or aren't so great, their value is going up. So.
And because these guys are sort of lesser names, it's not so much that their values is really going up, but it's that it could have gone a lot down and it didn't.
Oh, right. So I think just because of that, their value is probably not going up, like you said, but in my mind it is, because I kind of expected them to be replaced. So for me, it's significant that they dodged this huge bullet.
All right, let's take a look at number 2 on our list of biggest winners through free agency so far. The Falcons' weapons. All of them.
I think this is pretty self-explanatory, right? Drake London could be a wide receiver 1 in redraft. Pitts could be a top 3 tight end in redraft. Bijan maybe the running back 1 or top 5 no matter what. Like, so I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We can move on, but yeah, these they're number 2 for a reason. They're all getting a huge shot in the arm with the addition of Kirk Cousins.
Before we get to number 1 as our biggest winners from free agency, let's get to an honorable mention. And namely, we're going to be talking about Will Levis as well as Bryce Young and some of the late first round picks.
Correct. So yeah, Bryce Young and Will Levis, both were rookie QBs last year. Okay. And both somewhat struggled in their first years, but the organizations showed a lot of confidence in them and upgraded the weapons. Each got new receivers and each got improved offensive lines. So I think there's reason for optimism with both of them. And then I included the late first round picks as well, because I think some obvious landing spots, the Chiefs and the Bills did not add receivers. There were not any great receivers to add in free agency. Even the Bills lost Gabe Davis. So glaring holes at wide receiver, and I expect them to attack wide receiver in the draft. So I think if you have a late first round pick, that stock is going up. And then also the Cowboys didn't address running back at all, and they lost Pollard. So I expect them to draft running back. So I think if you own a pick in the 9 to 12 range, that value is going to increase.
The workhorses, we're talking Josh Jacobs, we're talking Derrick Henry, and we're talking Saquon Barkley.
Right. So beautiful for all three. All three land in ideal spots, ideal situations where they're going to command the full workload. They've been given big paydays for multiple years. So yeah, if you own one of these guys, you couldn't be more thrilled. They're all first round picks in redraft. So their dynasty value has increased immensely.
Loser.
The timeshares, and we're talking mostly Eckler and B-Rob.
Yeah, the timeshare running back, right? So I think if you're an Eckler owner, you're pretty disappointed with the money he got and the situation that he was brought to. Okay, so B-Rob, Brian Robinson, good running back, good on first and second down, and he was good last year, and he looked better last year. And I know, and with the money that Eckler got, I expect a complete timeshare, 50-50. Eckler is probably the better running back, and he's more useful in PPR, so he'll get a lot more receptions. So if you're going to have one, Eckler's probably the one to own in redraft, but I'm not excited about either with timeshare in what is probably a bad offense. Now, let me say this, there's sometimes a silver lining. So if your league mates feel the same way about these guys, that, they've lost value, if you could find a way, like say you have B-Rob on your roster and you can find a way to add Eckler on the cheap, right? If you could have both of them, if an injury hits to one of them, then the other one could be a league winner, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can find a way to acquire both, it's a strategy that I like to use. If you can hold both of them on your team, get one of the other one cheap, then it could turn out really good for you.
What's the most that you would give up for one of them? Like a third or like a late second?
I'd probably give up a late second for one of them, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at number 4, biggest winners through free agency. We're looking at our QBs that were relegated, and yeah, there were a couple.
Yeah, I think the biggest one's probably Pickett, but also like Ritter, and then maybe Tannehill could have been a starter. Yeah, so I think if you own any of these quarterbacks, you're very disappointed that they've been relegated to the bench, especially Pickett. I think people could have been optimistic that he would have been given another chance, but bringing Russell Wilson in, I don't think Pickett's getting another chance. So definitely a big drop in value. He's looks like he's a backup now.
Yeah, I think with Ritter, we knew the writing was on the wall with him. Same with Mac Jones. But yeah, I think Pickett was a little bit more surprising than the others. Right. Let's take a look at number 3, biggest loser through free agency so far. Third biggest loser, basically all the Viking weapons.
Yeah, again, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. They lost a very good quarterback in Kirk Cousins, who spreads the ball around, throws for a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns, and there's Sam Darnold's there now. So 3 very good weapons: TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison all take a big hit.
Is there any chance that Darnold actually becomes something with this opportunity put together also by the fact that he was able to, train under Shanahan a little bit and perhaps learn something to maybe get those ghosts out of his head?
uh, I think if he does start the year, start week one, I think they're probably bringing in a rookie and they're letting the rookie like sit behind and learn a little bit. And then, there's going to be some rumblings to get the rookie in there pretty quickly. Darnold, I don't have faith in him to get some W's. So I think pretty quickly we're going to hear some rumblings to get the rookie in there. So that's kind of what I would expect in Minnesota.
Let's take a look at number 2, the second biggest loser through free agency so far. It is the dying running backs, Spears, Pollard, Roschon, and Herbert.
Right. So for me, the biggest losers here are Tajay, Spears, and Pollard, right? I think you had reason to be optimistic about Tajay, and we're hoping for a better landing spot for Pollard. So I think we're looking at pretty close to a timeshare, maybe a 60-40 for Pollard, and I don't really like either of them now in redraft. And then, Herbert and Roschon Johnson, maybe they are fighting for backup duties. So again, if you own them, their value is going to nothing. Maybe Roschon is worth a little bit more because he's younger.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look. Before we get to number 1 on our list, we're going to take a look at an honorable mention. And our honorable mention is Elijah Moore.
Yeah, Elijah Moore, big hit. He was drafted in the second round, and some people like his ability to, win early on routes. And he looked okay last year. He had some big games, and then he fell off a bit, but there was some reason for optimism. Then they bring in Jerry Jeudy, and now he's probably 4th in the pecking order, and I think he's pretty much dead. So I think he's lost all value. So definitely a loser.
Bait if you've got him. Let's take a look at our number 1 biggest loser through free agency. And we are talking about Justin Fields. Nothing's really happened, but I guess that's been the problem.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame. Justin Fields. So a potential league winner if you have him. Like he scores a lot of fantasy points, right? And he probably went from a number 1 quarterback in Dynasty to, I don't know, a QB3. You're hoping that eventually he gets another starting opportunity, right? And then his value can shoot up. But right, he went from probably worth like a mid-first round pick to maybe a high second. So he lost a ton of value.
Yeah,
And
it just seems like everyone acted that had holes, already filled their holes. I mean, where could he possibly go to get a starting job? I mean, maybe Minnesota is that maybe a possibility to compete with Darnold, but other than that, I mean, what really is left for him to be able to start in a good situation?
Right. Yeah, Minnesota looks like it's a good situation, but then are the Bears going to trade him in the division? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, Minnesota would be fantastic, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Vegas would be possible if they're not. I mean, like if they could, we'll see. Like this could be prolonged until the NFL draft, and maybe he gets moved on draft night. I'm not sure. Maybe if one of the teams that needs a quarterback misses on one in the draft, they look to trade for him. But worst case scenario, he gets traded to a team as a backup. Like I've heard the rumblings that the Eagles could be interested as a backup to Hurts, or maybe the Ravens, they're losing Tyler Huntley. Maybe they want to bring in Fields, like another mobile quarterback to sit behind Lamar. So his value could even continue to decrease over the next couple months.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If a team doesn't get one of the guys that they wanted through the draft, if they kind of mess up at the draft, then that could be a good backup plan. Like another one that could be possible is Seattle, because they lost their backup quarterback, Drew Lock, to the Giants. So, Geno's really got 1 year left on his contract, but not really. It's not a strong, payment for him. So if they were to switch mid-season to somebody, they would be able to, whether that be a rookie or perhaps somebody like Justin Fields through a trade. So maybe that is a possibility.
You know what? Something I will suggest is like I think the reason that Fields hasn't been picked up is because Chicago wanted too much.
Yeah.
So next year he'll hit free agency. More than likely he'll hit free agency next year, and I think a team will give him a shot. So, you need to send out messages to the owner of Justin Fields and find out how he values him, because I think it's a good buying opportunity. Like if you could trade the 201 for Justin Fields and you're willing to wait a year, I think you could get a QB1 in Dynasty. So, I think Justin Fields is good enough. He's going to get another shot, is basically what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I think this is a good buy low opportunity. And if I have Justin Fields, I'm holding. I'm not selling.
Yeah. And I know you do in our league.
I do. Yeah.
No one even bothered trying to make offers to Vaz in our league.
Yeah, don't bother.
Anyways, despite Justin Fields being the biggest loser through free agency so far, there you have it. Our top 5 biggest winners and our top 5 biggest losers through free agency so far. Remember, we are going to continue to produce videos throughout free agency leading up to the NFL draft as well. Of course, we're going to have some pre-draft content also. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay up to date with when we post up new videos. And of course, leave your comments below because we would love to hear what you think about our top 5 list. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with anything? Did we miss anything? Let us know in the comments before and we'll start up a good old conversation about it. Also, remember, like the video, share it with your buddies to help us out as well. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching till the end. Remember to tune in next time to another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks.